So Simmers, and welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video, we're doing a super cutesy speed build with the brand new pack. Although it's not really like a limited pack build, I'm basically just using the new pack for fairies as my biggest inspiration, and then we're kind of taking it from there using all the packs that I have in my game, which is basically all the packs for The Sims. And I actually had not really had the opportunity to build with a new pack yet. I did get early access, like not the CFE early access like weeks in advance, but basically just the early access where I got it like 2 or 3 days in advance. And then I did play with it on stream a little bit, but we mostly did fairy gameplay because that was what most people were excited about. And I was just really in the mood for some cozy building. I wanted to do like a nice fairy build with the new pack to explore all of the new build items, to kind of just see the new build styles a little bit. And this was finally time to get on that. And of course, I wanted to start with a cute fairy cottage because I feel like this pack is very strongly giving like the sort of cottagey fairy vibes. It's, as far as I noticed with building with this, it's not giving too much of like high fae castle vibes. It's more giving like woodland fairy vibes, if that makes any sense. Let me know in the comments if you agree with that. But I very much went for like the most woodsy, cozy cottage that you could go for. I started with a relatively dark color scheme, as you can see here. Like I had a pretty dark roof, but then I started picking the windows and I very quickly realized that I actually really loved these white windows that had sort of like the rainbow butterfly in it. And I think from there, I realized that it would actually be super cool to go for more like a light fairy type of build. So the entire build also on the inside ends up being super light and like very, I don't know, like it has a lot of like blue and greenish tones because I felt like this would be the house of a fairy that's very focused on maybe like healing people, and a fairy that is like basically a good fairy. Like I think if I had to describe it in that way, this would be the house of like a fairy with a very pure heart and someone that is like very keen on taking care of people, which I think will go perfectly with the new apothecary skill and the new aspiration. And I think it would be really fun to play in this house and actually like let your fairy live out their sort of woodland creature vibes. And I wanted to make sure that this house on the outside felt like it was a super beautiful and lush overgrown cottage. So I actually end up spending a lot of time on landscaping. Like I think I spent most time on this build on landscaping because I just kept adding more plants, more terrain paint, little knickknacks here and there. I very heavily relied on debug and live edit items in here because I feel like there are just so many good items in debug and live edit that you can use for decorating landscaping, like these little stepping stones, but also later I add like hay bales and stuff. And I also noticed that honestly, if you have cottage living and you get the fairy pack, these go hand in hand so perfectly. Like I ended up using such a mix of the two. Like I legit ended up, I think, using 50-50 from cottage living and the fairy pack. They fit together so seamlessly that it almost looks like they come from the same pack. Obviously, that's also very much because of the type of build that I was doing here, but I genuinely think that if you have both of these packs, they're gonna just elevate each other so much because they're giving very similar energy. I also end up adding like a chicken coop to this build because I just felt like all of it made sense. And also I very much, while I was building this, I very much had like a persona in my brain of what kind of fairy, what kind of person would be living here. And that is something that I love it when that happens when I'm building, when I'm like, I actually start a build and then I realize that I have a very vivid idea of who would live in this house, because I feel like that for me makes the building process so much fun because it genuinely makes me feel like I'm making the house for someone, even if that is like a figurative someone, like obviously it's a sim. But like, I love the idea of making this like actually for a specific sim, or like for a specific type of sim, for a specific type of gameplay. And something that I also really enjoyed is that I went for a tiny home. So it is the biggest tier tiny home. I had like 98 out of 100 tiles, as you can see on the screen as well. But that is going to be also really nice for gameplay because that means that you'll have some like small boosts, and I believe that the bills will be cheaper if you live here. But when I was actually decorating the home, this does not feel like a tiny home. That's probably because it's the biggest tier, and I guess like 100 tiles is not actually super small. But I love that with all the outdoor space and having like a front yard and a backyard and even more space around it, this lot does not feel like a super small house. And on the inside, there is a double bed, a full kitchen, even an indoor greenhouse, which is something that you would say you could save a lot of space on if you if you wanted to make a tiny home. Obviously, an indoor greenhouse is not mandatory. You can also just do gardening outside. But I just really wanted to use that new glass wall that we got with the new pack, or technically it's a base game update, but I used the version or the swatch from the new pack basically. But I just really wanted to use that for like a beautiful sunroom, so I decided to sacrifice a couple of tiles for still having that indoor garden greenhouse space, which is also going to be really nice if you were to play on this lot, because that means that the plants that you grow in those specific planters will grow all year round. And then there is a bunch more gardening space that I will add to the backyard later on, because I feel like even if you have that indoor greenhouse, if you genuinely want to play with a sim that's going to be into the apothecary skill, you're gonna need like a lot of gardening space. So I wanted to make sure that that was like heavily represented. And basically from here, I just continue to add on the landscaping until I start with the decor. And the decor on the inside is very much, like I said, it's very much focused on light fey. I go for a lot of like greenish, bluish, whitish tones, but it still looks very homey and cozy. I made sure to use mostly lights that were like very warm, so it still has like an inviting look, and it didn't turn into some sort of like I don't know, like Ice Queen Elsa types of vibes with the colors that I used. And I really like it. I think this turned out super cute. I would actually love to play in this build myself. I do want to be upfront, I have not play tested this build, but I didn't use anything out of the ordinary, so I'm kind of assuming that it should actually just work. I did keep in mind like furniture placements and stuff, that things aren't weirdly close together, but please feel free to let me know if there's anything that needs to be fixed in the build. I'm more than happy to go back and like change it if needed, if anyone finds anything. It is uploaded to my gallery. You can actually get it. My gallery name is just Rosannatxt, just like it is here on YouTube and on my Twitch, for instance. And if you ever want to see me build things like this live, feel free to come hang out on my Twitch streams. I do a ton of Sims building over on Twitch, and I really always enjoy it to like build when the community is there, because I feel like if the community is there, it always helps a lot in, I don't know, coming up with ideas and like challenging my creativity and stuff like that. So if you want to come hang out and, you know, share some ideas or talk things over, or also if you have any questions, you can always drop by. If you want to learn how to build yourself in The Sims, I do have a series called The Builder's Bootcamp, which actually teaches you how to build in The Sims step by step. There's an episode on basically every part of building, every aspect. So you can also watch separate episodes if you're just curious on how to get better at roofing, or how to get better at stairs, or how to get better at cluttering and stuff like that. So feel free to check those out. They're all linked on my channel in like a specific playlist. And I think that is all that I want to tell you guys about this build. So I'm just going to let you guys enjoy the rest of the speed build with some nice music. And of course, towards the end of the speed build, there are always some nice first person screenshots from like, so that you can see all the rooms and all the furnishings and stuff on the inside. Let me know if you like this video, if you like this build. Let me know if you have any questions or suggestions. I'm always more than happy to hear them. And if you like this video, please toss it a cheeky like. And if there's nothing that you want to ask or say, feel free to just drop your favorite emoji in the comments, because it does always really help with engagement. And with all of that being said, feel free to subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye everyone!